Oh, hey guys, Mike with FM here. Welcome back to FM Builds, where we're taking this relatively stock 2003 Miata and turning it into a Miata you'd actually like to own and drive. So in this episode, we're going to de-racify the interior. That's right, it's not going to stay a race car in here. We do want this to be a dual purpose car. So let's check out some of the parts that we're going to be installing in this car to make it a little bit fresher, a little bit nicer, a bit more comfortable, and make it a driver-friendly car. Many of the products that we'll be installing in Project Ron today are provided by our sponsors, Miata, DEI, and CipherAuto. So we're going to talk about each one of these sponsors and what they provided for us in this episode, starting with Miata, because we've got some big stuff from Miata, actually on both corners of the table here. Starting with the big box over here on my right, this is a Robbins top from Miata. It is a black vinyl top with a glass rear window and defroster. Installing this is going to make Project Ron look a lot newer. It's amazing that replacing the old ratty tops from the factory, even if they're still in okay condition, but putting on a nice new top makes the car look so much newer, so much fresher. So we're really excited for that. On my left, we also have another big box. This one is a carpet set provided by Miata. We're getting all the old grungy stuff out of the car and in the trash can where it belongs. And now we're going to get some nice black cut pile with finished trim edges, even a nice heel plate for the driver's side installed, looking resplendent. Very excited for that one. Besides the two big boxes, we also have some very nice floor mats to match the new carpet set provided by Miata. And not interior related necessarily, but we do have a set of Jazz Performance panels to cover the wiper cowl area, or also called scuttle panels. That will kind of clean up that empty space where the wipers are. And lastly from Moss, we have a raked antenna, a shorty raked antenna kit that will get rid of the broken stock antenna. So good upgrade even if your antenna is working and it just gets in the way. These next products were provided to us by DEI. They sent over a very nice heat insulation under carpet set. That's this big pile here, as well as a shifter insulation kit. Keep some of that heat from the transmission tunnel away from your shift knob, as well as a boom mat kit. So this is a sound deadening insulation kit. We've actually got two kits here. This bigger portion is for the entire underside of the carpet and basic tub of the car. And then we also have some of the smaller strips and pieces that'll go in the doors, so that way the doors have some sound deadening insulation as well. So thank you very much to DEI for supplying this. It'll make the car a much nicer place to be for longer periods of time. The next group of things that we're going to talk about for installation today are touch points. These are interactive things that you use every time you get in the Miata and go drive. First up, let's talk about this CipherAuto steering wheel. So CipherAuto did sponsor this and sent us this very, very nice steering wheel. Has perforated leather on the sides, has the solid leather on the top and bottom, and this burgundy, well, they call it maroon, stitching that goes all the way around the steering wheel. It's a very nice match for Ron, I think. Next up, we have some pedal covers. These are supplied by Flyin Miata, of course. We've got a dead pedal, clutch, brake, and gas pedal extension that will go to good use in this car, so that way you can have better heel toe, more traction in both the dry and the wet, and they just look nice, a lot nicer than the rubber covers that most NAs and NBs have pretty much worn through at this point. Besides that, we also have a Cravenspeed shift knob. This is actually made specifically for Flyin Miata, hence our logo on top. This will go a long way towards getting a nice shift feel, since the stock shifter that's in there is getting kind of loosey-goosey. Beyond that, we also do have some Billet top lock latch caps or buttons. So these are a really nice upgrade to replace the factory ones. Not only do they look great, but they add a lot of functionality and adjustability into the top lock latches, because the stock buttons do wear out over time. So if yours are worn out and you need a bit more adjustability to make sure that your latches don't come open and your top fly open at speed down the highway, this is a great way to add a little bit of bling and fix a little bit of a problem. And lastly, but certainly not least, we will be reupholstering these factory NB2 or surfboard seats with some new leather and faux suede to make them a much nicer place to be and help grip you better, because with these stock leather seats, well, not in terrible condition, they are pretty slick. They don't really offer a whole bunch of support, and because everything is this very smooth, slick leather from the factory, it basically means that you're sliding around everywhere anytime you get into a deep corner. So we have opted to get some catskin seats. These are a nice replacement from the factory seat covers. This is a full replacement. These aren't going to go over the factory leather. We will take all of that off to put these on. But not only is it nice real leather, we have some nice burgundy stitching to go along with it to match, as well as the faux suede, which actually wears better than real suede. And that's important because this is where we're going to get most of our grip, since we're retaining the factory seats rather than doing a bucket seat, since this isn't going to be a full-blown race car. So now that we've covered all of these products, let's go ahead and get them installed in the car and get it looking really good. We're starting out a bit ahead this video because we've already removed the stock carpet in the previous video to install all the bracing. So what we're going to work on first now is to install some boom mat, kindly provided to us by DEI. However, we do need to remove the stock seats because we did have those in for the test drive. So let's pull those out. Next, because we will also be installing some boom mat in the doors, we need to remove the door panels. There is some sticky residue underneath the plastic. If you've ever replaced your door speakers, you'll know what I'm talking about. But this needs to go so that way we can have access to the inner door shell. After gaining access to the inside of the door shell and getting it nicely cleaned up, all we have to do is peel off the backing for the boom mat and stick it in place. Then we follow that up with a roller to make sure that we squeeze all of the air bubbles out from between the boom mat and the door skin. Then rinse and repeat on the passenger side. Now Ethan's going to apply DEI boom mat to the rest of the car, starting with the parcel shelf. And to make sure that the pieces fit just right, he's going to trim some strips so that way they can be applied right where they matter. Because the goal with the boom mat is to reduce resonancy in all of the big flat panels, we're just trying to cover some of the large areas that would act more like a drum than some of the other curves and smaller portions of metal. So we're aiming to cover all the big spots and reduce that resonancy as much as possible. Ethan takes some of the large squares of boom mat and applies them directly to the floor of the tub. Now that Ethan has all of the boom mat applied where we want it, he finishes by going over all of the different pieces with the roller to make sure they are adhered perfectly. Now that most of the sound insulation has been addressed, let's talk about heat insulation. DEI has provided some carpet insulation, and that needs to go down next. So Ethan starts fitting it to the floor and making sure that everything lines up just right. There are also pieces that fit over the transmission tunnel and over the rear parcel shelf and bulkhead. A little bit of trimming is required because we've installed a roll bar in this car. And to wrap up the heat insulation, Ethan installs the shifter insulation pieces that go around the shift lever. Now that we've laid down some heat and sound insulation, we're ready to put in the carpet. This premium carpet set provided by Miata is made of individual pieces rather than a whole molded carpet set like the factory does. So there's a little bit of fitment required to get everything just right. We drop in the passenger side floor section so that way we can see what it looks like in the car, and then the transmission tunnel next to it to see what is required to get it to fit properly. Moss provides some really awesome instructions for how to get this carpet set installed in your Miata, so the rest of this is basically puzzle piecing everything together to make sure it lines up and fits the way we want it to. We do need to cut a few holes so that way some of the mounting points and bolts and other things can pass through the carpet, but otherwise everything drops in place and is fitting pretty nicely. Because we do have a hard dog roll bar installed in this car, we do need to cut out some holes for the rearward bracing legs to be able to fit through the carpet. Once all of the parts are installed and we have them positioned where we like them, and all of the trimming is wrapped up, then we just need to add the carpet clips and get everything fixed and in place for the final time. Now it's time to install some extra grip and some extra bling on the pedals. So off come the factory rubber pedal covers, so that way we can get them prepared to drill holes to mount up our new billet pedal covers, provided by Flyin Miata, of course. However, before we add any holes to these pedals, we need to mark out where they belong, so that way the pedal covers are positioned and aligned properly. After marking them out, we can get started adding holes to be able to mount those pedal covers. Since the dead pedal is made out of plastic, all that's required are some pilot holes and then followed by self-tapping screws to hold the cover in place. To wrap up the pedal cover install, we check out the alignment and position of all the pedal covers and then tighten up the hardware. The car is starting to come together, and at this point we just need to reinstall some of the factory pieces, including the door cards and some of the other interior bits. So we'll do that now. Next on our to-do list is to install the new steering wheel provided by CipherAuto. First, we need to disconnect the battery so that way the airbag doesn't go off on our faces. To remove the factory wheel, we need to undo the 2 bolts that hold the factory airbag in place. After disconnecting the airbag, the next step is to remove the large nut that holds the steering wheel onto the steering column spline. We will need to reuse some of the plastic trim and the airbag frame from the stock wheel onto the new CipherAuto steering wheel. Once those factory components have been moved over to our new CipherAuto steering wheel, we can get it installed. On goes the large nut that holds it in place, and then the airbag and the 2 screws that hold that in place. And with this installation wrapped up, we have a fancy new wheel that feels great, looks great, and matches the rest of our interior. Our new carpet set wouldn't be complete without a set of fresh and plush new floor mats from Miata, so we drop them in place, that way our carpet stays nice for a long time. On goes our new Flyin Miata shift knob, featuring a stainless steel body and an acetal covering to keep your hands from getting burned when it's hot outside. The factory soft top latch buttons on Ron are a little bit worn out, so we're going to upgrade with some Flyin Miata billet aluminum top lock latch buttons to replace them. Say that 5 times fast. This will allow better functionality of the latches and make sure that they stay closed. Ron will also be wearing a new soft top provided for us by Miata. This is a Robbins streamlined vinyl top featuring a defroster rear glass window. We're going to save you some of the gory details of installing the top on the frame and just show the car getting the new top installed all together. First up, the frame gets bolted into the car right behind the doors. Next up, the rain rail portion of the top gets bolted around the belt line of the car on the inside using all of the factory hardware and brackets. Once all of the hardware is in place but not yet tightened down, a little bit of adjustment is necessary to make sure that it fits properly and it's stretched into place before tightening down all of the hardware. The last step is to adjust the soft top latches to ensure that the new top is tight against the windshield header. To clean up the top of the engine bay a little bit, we're going to install a Jazz Performance wiper cowl cover provided to us by Miata. This wiper cowl cover is pretty much a bolt-on affair. However, we do need to modify it just a little bit to allow for our washer bottle lid to be able to poke through the top on the driver's side. With the hole added and a little bit of touch-up paint applied, the cowl cover can be bolted in place. We did decide to install a rubber gasket at the top of the firewall to ensure that the hood would seal whenever it's closed. Jumping back to the interior for just a moment, we drop in our freshly reupholstered factory seats. We've also done a foamectomy on both the passenger and driver side to allow us to sit a little bit lower in the car. Because of the new suede inserts, this will also help keep us in our seats and prevent us from sliding around like the factory leather covers did. With the seats bolted in place, it's the perfect complement to the rest of the interior and really ties everything together. We've already previously removed the factory antenna because it was broken and non-functional. So, installing the new antenna provided for us by Miata is a simple drop-in affair. It bolts in from the bottom, there's a couple of wires to connect up, and we're good to go. And now we get to show off the most exciting part about doing interior installs, which is the end result. Ron is looking resplendent in its new Miata provided Robbins Streamline vinyl top with glass window and defrost. It is a much improved look for the whole car. It gives it a very svelte exterior, if I might add. Let's check out some of the interior stuff though. Right off the bat, you can tell that there's a big difference here inside the car now that we've reduced the Symphony and Beige down to a duet. We have a nice two-tone color scheme going on. This is a little bit of retro, a little bit of modern, so that way you get a nice mix, a custom interior without going too terribly far into the deep end. A nice modern touch that doesn't really change the look much, but changes the feel a lot is our new CipherAuto steering wheel, featuring very nice plush leather and burgundy stitching. Besides that, we also have the Miata provided carpet and floor mats. These are custom and cut specifically for the NA and NB Miatas. A subtle but very upscale touch is that we've reupholstered the factory seats using these catskin seat covers that have leather bolsters and faux suede inserts. This is a very nice upgrade that, one, feels and smells great, but also will help keep the driver more firmly planted because these faux suede inserts are actually a lot grippier than the factory leather or even cloth seats, and they will take a long time to wear out. They'll look nice for a long time, and of course, they feature a very nice burgundy stitching just like our steering wheel. There might be a bit of a theme going on. And of course, let's not forget the FM bits. We have our FM weighted shift knob. This is made for us by Cravenspeed. Really a big improvement over the floppy shift knob that was in here before. We also have the FM pedal cover kit installed, and this makes shifting an absolute joy. I can actually heel toe, reaching from the brake over to the gas pedal, and blip the throttle really easily. And of course, looks great, has tons of traction. And last but not least, we do have the FM Billet top latch lock buttons installed. These replace the factory ones that were very worn out and keep the top up when you need it to be. While it's not really an interior upgrade, we did also replace the factory antenna. Ours was actually broken, so we installed a short raked antenna from Miata. Thank you very much. Now this car doesn't look quite so much like an RC car. You probably noticed that the interior isn't quite 100% up to date, and that's because we do have a few parts that we are looking to get updated. We're just waiting for them to come in. So once the parts arrive, probably after this video is live on YouTube, we'll get them replaced. That way the interior is looking perfect. Of course, we wouldn't be able to have this build series without the help of our friends and sponsors, Miata, DEI, Willwood Brakes, CipherAuto, Hard Dog Fabrication, Coil Radiators, and Toyo Tires. Thank you all very much for your support and lending parts to be able to make this build as exhilarating as possible. I'd also like to extend a thank you to our customers and all of our friends in the Miata community. Thank you all very much for your support. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Project Ron. This interior has come a long way, and now it's looking great, it feels great, and it is going to be an excellent place to spend time in after we get everything done. That being said, the next episode we're going to be doing cooling upgrades. This car has aspirations for boost, and we need to make sure that it is prepared for all of the extra horsepower we're going to be throwing at it. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Hit the bell so that way you can know whenever the next episode goes live when we do all of the cooling upgrades for Ron to make sure that it is ready for boost. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.